everyone, welcome to this channel and welcome to this week's edition of Smash or Pass, a series where we talk about the latest fragrance releases that have been announced over this past week and we discuss whether or not we want to get them and why. This week we have quite the lineup, so before we get started, I do want to introduce myself if you are new. My name is Anya, I love fragrances. I talk about fragrances every single weekday, Monday through Friday. I also publish additional content on TikTok and Instagram under the username ANECHKAFRAGRANCES, so if you're interested in that, do follow me on those social media platforms. And if you love fragrance history, I publish a podcast on here and on Spotify every single Wednesday called The Fragrance Report. This podcast focuses mostly on fragrance history, and we launch a new episode every Wednesday, and like I said, it's available on Spotify and on YouTube every week. If you're also looking for a more effective way to track how much you're spending on fragrances, to track what's in your collection, I highly recommend you download my fragrance collection lock and expense tracker. It's available in my Stan store. So with that being said, we have quite the list of new releases, so let's get into it. So we have a few new releases by Jo Malone. The first release is going to be this Amber Lapum Cologne Intense. So this will have top notes of bitter orange, a mid of labdanum, and then a base of vanilla and oak leaves. This is going to be a this is going to be a permanent addition to their collection. And I will say at first glance, this looks really promising. This is something that would be right up my alley. I love kind of like woody, leathery fragrances, and for those of you who don't know, labdanum usually does have like this velvety, almost like suede-like accord, at least to my nose. That's what I interpret it as, and so I feel like this would be like, just in terms of scent profile, something that would really much align with my tastes and what I look for in a fragrance. The reason why I don't think I would get this is because I don't think that the concentration of Jo Malone fragrances is something that I necessarily gravitate towards on a regular basis, because I feel like their fragrances can be a little bit weak. And for those of you who are okay with an eau de cologne concentration, this could be for you, but for me, this is definitely going to be a pass. Something that also looks really interesting from Jo Malone as well is a new kind of more feminine leaning fragrance, it looks like, called Raspberry Ripple. And apparently this is supposed to be an ice cream kind of inspired scent that has a top note of red currant, a mid of raspberry, and then a base of white musk. This looks rather delightful. I really think that this would smell absolutely amazing. And don't get me wrong, I love the way that Jo Malone fragrances smell, but for me, again, the issue is a concentration. I feel like these fragrances are a little bit too expensive for what they are, which is a very light kind of concentration. These are not heavy hitters, and for me, I like a fragrance that lasts longer. So if you're looking for that, then this might not be for you. But if you're looking for something that's lighter, that's more refreshing, that's not going to be very long wearing, something that is kind of like a whisper of a fragrance, this could be for you. Also, if you're more sensitive to fragrance, this could also be a fragrance for you. But for me, this is going to be a pass. Something else that's a little bit more affordable is a new release from French Avenue. This will be called Vulcan Bay. Okay, it's spelled B-A-I-E. Interesting. Okay, so this will have top notes of blackcurrant, blackberry, bergamot, and rosemary, a mid of lily of the valley, basil, raspberry, and vodka, and then a base of sandalwood, strawberry, patchouli, incense, peach, amber, and musk. Now, this is something that I would definitely be interested in trying out because there are a few notes here that really stand out to me. Number one, I really love notes like lily of the valley, rosemary, basil, blackberry. These are notes that I tend to really gravitate towards. I also really like that they include vodka. I really love kind of like liquor inspired scents, and this could be a fragrance that I would very much gravitate towards. I will say there's a lot going on in here. It's almost as if they just tied like 3 different fragrances in one, because you have like those aromatic notes, but then you also have like the gourmands like raspberry, strawberry, and peach, and the bottle itself is a hot pink. So it kind of makes me believe that the composition of this fragrance might lean a little bit more fruity, and if so, it might not be something that I'm like super drawn to, since I'm not always looking for like a super fruity gourmand fragrance. So I'm curious about sampling this. This would definitely be something that I would like to try out. But I wouldn't necessarily blind buy the full bottle, and I feel like within like a few weeks, You can usually find like a sample of this on, you know, Etsy or Mercari. It's usually pretty easy to get samples of Middle Eastern fragrances. Just like online, you can probably get it for like around $10, which I think is a better deal than to buy like the full-size bottle for like $40 or $50 and then risk not liking it. So we also have some new releases from Harlem Perfume Co. So they have 2 new Sephora exclusive releases, plus another release that they're introducing that has been in their lineup since 2023, but it's now in a different packaging for Sephora. So Harlem Perfume Co. has traditionally been inspired by Harlem, of course, and the rich history that surrounds it. And they have had fragrances inspired by that history for quite some time. So with their new partnership with Sephora.com, they're launching these 2 new Sephora exclusive fragrances that include Golden Muse and Showgirl, and then they're rebottling Langston, which has been around for quite some time, into like a sky blue bottle for Sephora. So Showgirl and Golden Muse, I don't know if I said Modern Muse or Golden Muse, it's Golden Muse. They're supposed to be bold, modern, and intentionally designed to resonate with a new generation of creative muses. They bridge past and present, capturing the spirit of self-expression, glamour, and artistic freedom that define an era, but translate it through a contemporary lens. What remains the same is our foundation, the craftsmanship, cultural richness, and storytelling that define Harlem Perfume Co. The fragrances honor art, culture, and legacy while opening the door to new audiences and new stories. And this is a quote from the founder, Terry Johnson. So let's talk about the fragrance notes themselves. So Showgirl will have a top note of mandarin orange, pink pepper, bergamot, a mid of jasmine sambac, lavender, and cardamom, and then a base of Australian sandalwood, amber, and musk. This fragrance is supposed to be loosely inspired by the likes of Josephine Baker or Florence Mills, whose role in the Broadway musical Shuffle Along in 1921 was one of the early events that kicked off the Harlem Renaissance itself. And this fragrance has been created by the perfumer Honorine Blanc. And then we have Golden Muse, which was developed with Berenice Watteau, a fast-rising perfumer behind part of the new Jill Sanders collection. And this is a direct quote from her. I wanted this fragrance to be bright and sensual, an expression of femininity through curves and warmth. With notes of bourbon, vanilla, orange blossom, Indian jasmine, coconut milk, sandalwood, frangipani, ambergris, tangerine, amberwood, bergamot, sea salt, jasmine, peach, myrrh, musk, and lily. And then finally, Langston is going to be repackaged into a lighter blue, and it will have top notes of caramel, apple, cinnamon, and chocolate, a mid of brandy, orris, orange, night, blooming jasmine, and labdanum, and then a base of vanilla, sandalwood, tonka bean, and musk. I had the opportunity to sample a few of the Harlem & Co. fragrances. I can't remember what I thought of them, but I know I did like them. I have to see if I have a sample still of their fragrances, but they've been around for a few years, and I think it's really wonderful that they're starting to have this collaboration with Sephora so they can get their fragrances out to a broader audience. The fragrance that I am the most interested here is definitely Golden Muse. I find that it has the most variety, and this could be a fragrance that I would definitely be interested in sampling, though of course I'd be interested in sampling all of these fragrances. I do believe I have tried Langston though. I feel like there is kind of like a I don't know, there's like a pro and con to creating fragrances that are designed to be mass appealing. The positive is it allows the brand to be worn by more people, and more people are able to experience the brand. The brand makes more money, and it becomes more successful. The negative is for collectors or for people who already have a really big collection, sometimes those, I mean, this is like my experience. For me, I'm thinking like, those new fragrances might not be as appealing, because if you already have something that could be similar to that fragrance, or if you've already smelled that kind of thing before, it might be less appealing to spend money on that fragrance. So it looks like they've made a decision to really appeal to the Sephora customers, so really try to go for a fragrance profile that would be appealing to a broad audience. So it looks like they've made their decision. They've probably done a lot of research behind it. So these would be things that I would be interested in smelling to support the brand, but I don't necessarily know if I would just go outright and buy any of these fragrances just because they're branded as mass appealing. And I think I've like transitioned into just enough of maybe a bit of a snob when it comes to my fragrance collection to really just want to get things that are unusual, that are special, that maybe are pushing the envelope just a bit. And so I don't think I'm the target audience for this kind of fragrance. Okay, so next up we have some new releases from Mind Games. We have King Side and we have Queen Side. So ladies first, let's talk about Queen Side. Queen Side will have notes of cassis, lychee, and pear, a mid of geranium, lily of the valley, and violet, and then a base of patchouli, oak moss, and musk. On the other hand, King Side will have notes of pistachio, cardamom, and grapefruit zest at the top, a mid of hazelnut flower, amber, rum, and peony petals, and then a base of tonka bean, almond milk, and Peru balsam. I will say that I'm interested in trying out Mind Games in general. I haven't tried anything from the line. I have yet to try the line. And I think these fragrances are okay, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to try them in terms of just like looking at the notes. I've never tried anything from the brand, but I would like to. Let me just say that. At think it's interesting because I recently went to Grasse Perfume Week just a few days ago. I just got back, and while I was at Grasse, I noticed a few different types of releases. I noticed a few different types of brands. So on one hand, you had people that were being super creative, that really had like a thought process behind their fragrances, that were really eager to talk about the notes, about the thought process behind designing these fragrances. You could really tell that these fragrances were a labor of love and creativity. On the other hand, you had brands that, for lack of a better term, seemed to just be there to make money, which is fine, but you could definitely tell there was a difference. So I'm not saying that this release is specifically designed to be a cash grab, but this release kind of like made me think, because I've heard a lot of conversation online about there being like multiple different types of like new brands being launched. Okay, so there are some brands that are just being launched to be creative, and then other brands that are being launched to make money. And I think at the end of the day, you can get whatever you want, and you can buy whatever you want, whatever you like to basically smell good. If something's appealing to you, go get it. But I think it's interesting because you can really tell the difference after smelling so many different fragrances, interacting with so many brands. You can clearly tell the difference between brands that are there to be creative and innovative and share their passion and joy, and then the brands are just there because they want a slice of the pie. It's quite apparent, and it's definitely interesting once you smell the fragrances, because it's pretty easy to tell, in my opinion, but that's just my own alleged opinion. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've also experienced this. I don't know. I think that there is a lot of room for people to grow and develop and share their creativity, and some fragrances might be appealing to some people. Some people might not like certain fragrances. I just think it's an interesting conversation to have. We have a new release by Stefanie Umber Lucas, and this will be called Le 8. And this is inspired by Chinese culture. I believe it's the year of the snake, so that's why this came out. Okay, so this has top notes of bergamot, yuzu, Madagascar cypress, cinnamon leaf, and hibiscus, a mid of hoe wood, which is camphor wood, liqueur accord, Marco Polo tea, strawberry tea, cherry blossom, and peony, and then a base of leathery saffron, tonka bean, amber extreme, sandalwood, and vanilla infusion. This seems really interesting. The bottle design is really something that I love. Like, I absolutely love the way the bottle design is presented here. It's the number one thing that is interesting to me, of course. You guys know how superficial I can get with some of these designs. And I will say, not gonna lie, one of my favorite combinations is having like a kind of like a leathery animalic accord with fruity notes. I feel like that is such a winning combination. This is definitely something that I'll be interested in trying out, but let me know what you think of this launch. I also do want to talk about a release by Fragrance DuBois. I believe this is a Harrods exclusive, and this will be called Rude Cherry. So Rude Cherry will have top notes of chili, cherry, almond, and watery notes, a mid of tonka, saffron, rose, vetiver, and cypriol, and then a base of oud, vanilla, musk, ambergris, and vetiver. I can tell you right off the bat, I will not be getting this. This is not something that's for me, but do I like the idea of combining a cherry accord with something spicy? Yes. But the fact that this is a limited edition fragrance kind of makes me not want to get this as much. Also, it's a Harrods exclusive, so it won't really be available anywhere where I'm close to. And also, this would probably not be the first Fragrance DuBois fragrance I would get anyway. There are a few other fragrances that are smelled from the brand that I would much prefer compared to this one. For example, like the Lovers collection, that is a collection that I have had on my one of my insane wish lists. Like, you know, like when you have a wish list of fragrances that are like super expensive and hard to get that you would not get for quite some time but you would like to have. It's on like the Lovers collection from Fragrance DuBois is on that list for me. So this would definitely not be the first fragrance I would get from the brand, but the brand has been on my like aspirational wish list for quite some time. But this would definitely be a pass for me. But yeah, that is it for this video. Those are all the fragrances I have time to talk about today. Do let me know, what do you think of these releases? Is there anything that stood out to you? I did just get back from France. If you want to see more of a recap on my time in France, definitely follow me on TikTok and Instagram because I will be posting photos and recaps there. I already have been publishing a lot on my Instagram, especially, but I will be posting or filming rather more content related to my kind of excursions in France because it was a very perfume focused trip. I discovered a whole bunch of really interesting new brands. I was able to attend Perfume Week when I was in Grasse. So I literally just got back yesterday, so I haven't really had a chance to like look through all my photos and footage just yet. But just know that content related to that is coming. So I will be publishing it on all my social media platforms, but if you want to be the first to experience that content, definitely follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I will be publishing those pieces of content there first. But because on YouTube it does take me a long time to kind of like film these like long pieces of content and then edit them. But yeah, let me know, what do you think about this particular video? Is there anything from this video that jumps out at you? Is there anything that you agreed on, disagreed with me on? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But as always, thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye.